What's up, guys? Ben Samlak TV here again with Gary. We're gonna carry on our conversation where we ended off last time. I think it was a really good, anointed conversation. I was really happy to get that recorded. So we thought, we both felt led to have another conversation to continue on. Uh, where we left off, Gary, he was talking about how when his sister overdosed, he gave his life fully to the Lord, and at that time the Lord really responded and was very real to him in a lot of different ways. And I talked to him a little while after that happened. It was about, what did you say, 3 months, 7 months ago?
Yeah.
And then I called him maybe a couple months after that had happened, and he started telling me all the things that were going on, and that really was an encouragement to me. It really it caused me to start to turn more to the Lord and to open up. So I felt like this was something really the Lord was doing in his life. I could tell even the fruit that it was bringing to me. So in time, I saw more. Gary was going to youth conferences, shepherding some different ones. Eventually took a trip to Africa. Recently, the Lord worked all that out, provided the funds and everything. Different stories with I remember your father-in-law, something happened with the ticket and how the devil's really been, also as the Lord's been there, the devil's been there trying to attack him. And I do know that from my own experience and also other people who, when you become absolute for the Lord, the Lord becomes real to you, but then you really do enter into a spiritual warfare at the same time. So that being said, I know when we talked, there was a lot of things that was going on during that time. I know now the Lord's pretty real still. But I know when you first had that first encounter, those first couple months, I think were seemed like every time I talked to you, there was something really uh, miraculous happening, or very spiritual. So that being said, is there anything else? I know we talked about a couple of things last time, and I just didn't want to go on too long, so we can kind of get back into some things maybe, either then or now. Just I'm not going to limit it, but that you feel like the Holy Spirit did it and showed you that could be helpful to people to know.
Yeah, I have one, which happened pretty early on. So in the last video, I mentioned how God had put all these people on my heart to go minister to. He was showing me that just like my sister was suffering with a lot of depression and going through hard things, there are so many people I know that are going through hard times in their life. And he was showing me I can go be there for them, even though I can't be there for my sister. There are people I can go be there for. It doesn't have to be a direct family member. And that's a way that I can not really like pay off my debt, but like this deep yearning in me to go be with my sister that I cannot now act out on. Um, that same feeling of compassion, he redirected in my heart to pour out that on others.
Mm.
And even sometimes I would think about somebody and just start crying. I would just be so filled with love for them. People I hardly even knew, I would just start crying when I picture them. Just feeling so much love, I just couldn't help but to cry. That's just all God, because naturally, I don't even like people. I just want to do my own projects, do my own thing, not even really hang out with anybody. Like I get into these like kind of hibernation modes where I'm just not even really caring for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just God's love in me just overflowing.
Amen.
So one of the people I had on my heart was my cousin, Joey. I wanted to go visit him. I knew he'd been going through some hard stuff, and he was going through difficult times and sad about some stuff. And I just felt a strong push from God to go visit him.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know when, though. I had that feeling toward a lot of people, but I was like just waiting on the Lord's sign. And so this one weekend, I was in church, and during the sermon, I had this vision where I was falling off a train platform, and I pushed somebody out from in front of a train. And as I pushed, I turned as I'm falling into the train that's oncoming. I pushed them to safety, and I looked them in the eyes and I smiled, and I felt so much love for them. And I wanted my eyes to tell them I'm giving my life for them. And this is Jesus in me, expressing his love through me.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt this overwhelming joy and love, and I knew I was pleasing God, and then I knew I was going to be in heaven instantly, and it was super worth it to me and super fulfilling, and it was like this incredible experience. This is all in a vision in church. And then that afternoon after church, my cousin Ralph came up to me and he was like, "Hey Gary, do you want to go visit Joey today after church, after the lunch gathering is over?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's so funny you mentioned that because I was just thinking about him this week." So me, my cousin Ralph, my wife, his wife, and I think one other person went to go visit Joey, and we were talking to him, and he was just really down and uncomfortable having so many people visiting him. He wasn't used to that, and we were just showing him a lot of love and encouraging him. And we talked him into going to a restaurant with us. So we took him to a restaurant, and we were just talking and just opening up and hearing his thoughts. And he said that when my sister died, he couldn't cry. He wanted to, but he couldn't cry. He forgot how to cry.
Mm.
He's had so many things bottled up in him for so long, he didn't know how to cry anymore. And I just said, well, um, it is a hard loss, but we really love you. And I was just encouraging him in general. And I said, you know what? It would be so nice to just spend more time as a family because you never know who's going to be the next to go. And I would just love to spend time with you more and maybe do some fun outdoor stuff. Maybe start off with just walking. He's like, well, I don't have any muscle. And I'm like, well, maybe you and Brian can start lifting weights together and start just slowly building up your muscle and getting back in shape so you can do fun outdoor activities with us. And he was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. He's like, I'm in. And I'm like, that's great. Yeah, you'll get your muscle back. We're going to have fun as a family. It's going to be awesome. And I was like, and we can do whitewater rafting maybe if you'd be interested. And he was like, yeah, that sounds fun. He's like, I have a question though. What would happen if I fell off the raft and I was drowning? Would you save me? Would you risk your life to save me? I was like, of course I would. And he was like, okay, well, what would happen if I was about to be struck by a train? Would you risk your life to save me and die for me if I was going to be hit by a train? You would trade your life for mine. And I looked him right in the eyes, and he was looking very intently into my eyes when I answered. And I said, yes, I would. And he received that. He felt very loved that I would give my life for him. But what was amazing is that I had that vision that day of giving my life for someone in front of a train, and God had prepared me for that question in advance. And I knew I really would because God had shown me what I felt and how amazing it was to give my life for someone else. Mm-hmm. It's the ultimate act of love. And so that was miraculous vision that prepared me. And what made it even more interesting is that I was once confronted by a friend of the family that asked me, would I give my life for my wife? And I said, no. And he was like, why? And I was like, well, I see myself being a prominent scientist someday. I'm an inventor. I think that I bring a lot more to the table, to the world with all my ideas and inventions. I could be a leader of industry someday. I think that for the future of mankind, my life is more valuable. I had a mentality that I'd heard from Elon Musk about just the promotion and advancement of mankind. And it was an earth-centered Tower of Babel type of power for manpower, like mm-hmm. Let's make man great.
Yeah.
And that mentality had sunk into me over time. And it's an evil mentality of not God-based, not eternity-based, but of a temporal, let's see how far we can advance mankind.
Yeah.
And so that was an evil that had taken a root in me and caused me not to be willing to die for others. And God had destroyed that in this vision and made me really yearn for the opportunity to be a martyr for him and to die for somebody and go to heaven as a martyr. That would be a great honor. And God put that into me through that vision. And it was a life-changing thing for my cousin then to have me able to honestly tell him I would die for him. And I barely know him. I
Yeah.
haven't seen them for little kids. So that was like, I was like, what am I even saying? Like my humanity is like, no, I wouldn't die for anybody. And yet I had so much peace. I was speaking from the Spirit, and it was what God put into me. I had the Holy Spirit speaking through me.
Yeah.
And that's what he wanted to hear. He wanted to hear that his life is valuable and that someone else would die for him. He needed to hear it at that time.
Yeah.
And so God prepared me for it. And it's a miracle that God prepared a guy who's so naturally egocentrical in his sinful nature that he wouldn't die for even his own wife, that he prepared me to be willing to die for someone that's basically a stranger, even though they're family. I don't know him as a man. I've
Yeah.
never known him since we were little kids.
It's interesting how the Lord, when we begin to follow him, you would think, what does God want from us? What does he want us as we start to enter into a relationship with him? And it's so simple as just the Lord did say that. He asked Peter, do you love me? And he said, yeah. And he said, shepherd my sheep. Do you love me? Feed my lambs. Do you love me? Feed my sheep. Whatever order that was. But that is the Lord's heart is for man. And even he came down to seek that which was lost, like your sister, like you said. And it's sad that we have to experience, the Lord has to let us go through such loss for us to wake up to be able to be connected with the eternal vision, the eternal plan. Like you said, we're so man-centered, and I appreciate your being genuine to, admit, what you said and how you felt. Most people wouldn't admit that. They would, oh yeah, I'll die for my wife, I'll die for my husband, I'll die for my kids. But in reality, when it comes down to it, a lot of people in their heart are very selfish, like you said. And when we follow God, he exposes that. Now, two other things when you started coming back to the Lord that stick out to me, that show me more that you did, God changed you and he started calling you to a life of selflessness. When you took those guys to the conference, I think that was kind of interesting. Like, and I know when you go to the whenever anyone, like I remember you were telling me you were planning to go to what was it called? The Passion or
Passion conference.
Passion conference, and how the Lord provided the funds for you and this group, and how there was a girl who somehow wasn't able to go.
Oh
And
yeah.
I know when I was inviting you to conferences and other times, any times when I was younger and I was trying to invite people to a conference or to some kind of a retreat, I always knew someone would fall off because the devil will, even though they committed, I would always know that the devil would come in and do something. And so I could see that happening when you were trying to do that. And then the other story I think was if we have time with your father-in-law with the ticket, I think that was kind of cool how the Lord,
Yeah.
that was kind of, you could see the devil coming in, but then the Lord really doing something to show that he's the Lord. So
Yeah.
maybe those two stories we can see if we have time. Start with that group, that the Lord had you, because I know you too have been all these years. That's why I know this is real, because like you said, you're a caring person and you're very, genuine, and you are a loving person. But like you said, if you could get a little extra sleep or take the time for yourself, you would do that. So to see you taking care of these guys and some of these things, it really showed me that there was fruit in what's going on in your life. So share that experience if you could.
Okay, so we started a home Bible study group before I really got all in for God. And after I got all in, I was like, guys, we can't do this once a month or once every other month. We got to do this every week. And so I pushed for it. So we started doing it every week. And when I started reaching out to everyone I know on the phone, texting them, I wanted just to spread my joy and love to everybody. So the group grew really fast because we started inviting so many people. And we got to meet new people through that, because sometimes people would bring guests. And a real good friend of mine, Ishmael, brought two mentally handicapped people that are from his church to our home group meeting. And I got to meet them, and then I started going to their church in addition to my morning church. So I was going to 2 church services every week, and I got to know them at their church service, and we would go out to eat after. So I was really getting to know these two mentally handicapped.
How old are they?
One's like 26, one's like 34.
Okay, go on.
But they kind of act like 8 and 10 years old.
Okay.
But they're very sweethearted. They're very spirit sensitive, and the Lord's really working in them. And they've been such a wonderful testimony for me, and they've shared their testimonies. It's super powerful stuff. They've been a big blessing in my life. So anyways, we were talking, and one of them at a restaurant we were at after church was talking about how he went to this huge conference that had like 60 people, and it was a life-changing experience at this church he went to. And I was like, 60 people? He would be mind blown by Passion Conference. It's got like 50,000 people in a stadium worshiping God together. So I was like, I've got to do this. That's it. As soon as he said that and that idea hit me of these Passion Conferences, I was like, this is a must. So I told him about it like a week later after I prayed about it some more, and I knew this would be something really pleasing to God. And I asked them about it, and they said, yes, we would love to. So then we started planning it out, and I knew right away that I'd have to pay for their tickets because they make like $20 a month or something working at the facility they're at or whatever. So anyways, I came up with the money for like one of them, and then the other one, and then my bills came in, and I invited another person. I offered to pay for them just in faith. And after my bills were paid at the end of the month, I was like, whoa, like my money was getting really tight. And I was like, this is kind of getting overwhelming, and I'd have to maybe sell some stocks or something, which is supposed to not be touched till my retirement. So I'm like, what do I do, Lord? And then I had this Africa trip idea that came strong on me, and that's a whole other story of how the Lord led me into that. And so
Yeah,
I
we
was
can talk about
needing
that
money
next. We can talk
for
about that
that.
next
Yeah,
week,
we'll talk about
maybe.
that another one. But so all these financial big things I'd kind of been pushed into, and I'm like, how do I do this? So I just I prayed that if God wanted me to do these things, He'd provide the money. And within 24 hours, both things were totally funded in full.
Wow.
Through multiple people, like $1,600 within 24 hours of that prayer.
Wow.
And that was after waiting days, nobody really offering. Maybe I made like $40 in total earnings over 3 or 4 days, and then overnight, 1,600.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, Lord, I guess I'm going. That even covered the girl, so the 2 guys and the girl. But then the girl ended up flaking and not deciding to come last minute, even though she flaked. And then I talked to her and I encouraged her, and she was like, okay, I'm going. And then flaked again, same thing again. 3rd time, she's like, okay, I'm really going for sure. And then flaked again the last minute. So
That just
it
shows
ended
how
up we
strong
got an extra ticket.
that shows how strong the enemy could be, you know?
Yeah, because each time she talked to me, she'd be like, oh yeah, I'm coming. Like,
Wow.
just my enthusiasm or something, she was like, whatever excuses she had faded. But after somebody else talked to her, or I got off the phone with her, she'd like, it was almost like Pharaoh with Moses, just a hardening of heart each time after a plague happened. So it just, the last time she flaked. So anyways, I went with the 2 boys and my wife, and just the whole trip was a disaster from like a logistical point of view. We ended up driving all night in a storm. I kept having to get out of the car to retie down the ropes that were tying down all of our gear. We didn't have money for hotels, so we were going to camp. And it was like winter time. It was December, so it was freezing. It was like blowing ice cold rain. I had to get out of the car on the side of the expressway, climb onto the wheels of the back of the car with semi trucks whizzing by, ice cold air and rain hitting the back of my head. And I'm out there with a headlamp trying to tie ropes down as it's pouring down rain and heavy winds trying to blow me off the car. And I'm trying to tie everything down, and it keeps untying, and all our gear could blow off the roof of the car. I just have it all tied onto the roof with rope. It was just everything that could go wrong. And then at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, after driving all night and tying down the car like 4 or 5 times, everyone's sleeping but me. I'm doing all this alone. And people are snoring loud in the back seat. One of them kept in his sleep. He kept giggling. It was so cute. So anyways, it was a really nice time though. I still was thankful. I had the joy of the Lord, even though I was going through something that was very trying. I still felt so much joy because I felt like I was following the Lord. So we finally got to a hotel and we checked in, And then everyone was supposed to go to sleep, but they'd been sleeping the whole time. So they wanted to eat breakfast, even though it was 4 a.m. So we all ate breakfast, and then we all went to bed. One of them snored all night, kept keeping us all up. So it's just one thing after the next. But we ended up making it to the conference. It was a beautiful time. They really opened up about their lives while we were there, and we had some excellent bonding. But
The conference itself, though, wasn't all what you thought, right?
no, the conference, it seemed to be lacking spiritually somewhat, but the Lord covered it. We still had some really spiritual bondings ourselves, but yeah, the conference, it was lacking in some ways for sure. Spiritually, I didn't feel. That's a whole other story. But the Lord covered it, and he had some real excellent spiritual things happen anyways. Like, for example, the boys, we call them the boys because they're kind of like brothers, and they both are in the same home. So anyways, the boys somehow talked me into giving them a chance to get off their medications. And I did sign that I'd keep them on their medications, but they're adults, and so I I let them make that call, and I gave it to the Lord. The Lord's a higher authority, and I I want to open up the possibility for them to eventually get off their medication. So it was a test with my careful supervision to see how they'd behave. Um, so they were off their medications, but we flushed them all down the toilet for the next 3 days, because we didn't want them to get back and see that they weren't taking their pills. So we flushed them down the toilet, which it was kind of like all in without really putting it to the test for one day first. So I was stuck with them off their meds, and their personalities did change, and that entered in a whole new slew of issues that the Lord
You didn't tell me.
used to
You
grow
didn't
us
tell me
up,
about this part.
which made it even more of a trial. So I really went through some major trials. So one of them, which is normally very mentally slow and sluggish and can hardly get his thoughts out, became completely alert and high energy, a total personality change. He was on tranquilizers.
Hmm.
And they also helped him with anger problems. So I got to see some anger problems and a very high energy guy. It was shocking. And so we were trying to save money, so we would try to eat in the morning and then eat at night after the conference, but not eat in the city or eat at the stadium. But one day, right after we ate breakfast, like within an hour or two, they started complaining they were hungry. And throughout the day, we just kept saying, well, we don't have money for food. We didn't budget that in. We're just using the shoestring budget we have, and you guys didn't bring any money. So you're just going to have to deny yourself and just wait till the evening. You're not going to die. And so he started getting more and more upset and complaining, and he started pacing around and saying, I just want to go home. This conference stinks. I want food. I didn't sign up for this. I'm starving. Even though he ate like 2 huge pieces of pie 2 hours ago, he's acting like he's dying of starvation. So anyways, the pie was leftovers from a friend's wedding. We brought a bunch of frozen food in a cooler in the back of the car that we would eat to save money. So it was all free food. So anyways, and the Lord provided that as well, by the way. So he was with us the whole time in every little detail. So it came to a head when we got to the stadium for the evening conference. He'd been not eating the whole day, and he threw his coat on the ground and started shouting at the stadium, man, bleep this and bleep that. Man, I want to go home. I want food. I'm starving. This stinks. I don't want to sit through this conference now. I just want to go home. And a bunch of security guards surrounded him. And I was like, oh no, he's about to get kicked out. And we were all going to get kicked out. And then I could be investigated for not having him on his medication. I'll be blamed. If he hurts somebody, it's going to come back on me because I signed the papers when his medications were given over. And so I'm going to be held responsible. I might go to jail. So I walked up to him And I was like, Terrence, you've got to calm down. Look around you. You're being surrounded by security guards with guns. If you don't calm down, you could be shot, and my wife and I will be blamed because we let you get off your medication. And my wife and I could go to jail, and she'll be in jail with our pregnant child. And so this is really bad. You need to calm down. And I said, just look me in the eyes, take a deep breath, and calm down. And so he just looked me in the eyes and he took a deep breath, and I said, just give it to the Lord. And he said, you're right. You're right. I said, just pray to the Lord that he'll take away your anger. He said, Lord, I pray he'll take away my anger. And then I just saw him immediately calm down. And then he was smiling. He was like, thank you. That was awesome. Like, I feel like the Lord just gave me victory over my anger issue. And I was like, you can do that every time you're getting overwhelmed with anger. Just call on the Lord and pray for him to take away your anger. And he can give you victory over this. And if you can do this, you can get off the medication for anger. And you can live a more normal life and not be on all this stuff which is preventing you from being able to think and being able to hold down a job. You can re-enter society and have a normal life. And he was getting really happy. And so he was just rejoicing and so encouraged by that. So that's one of the really cool, miraculous things from the Lord on that trip.
Hmm.
So that's several things. The Lord was just with us the whole trip. But after that, we sat down and we were listening to the music, and I was just praying. I was like, Lord, you got us through this, but I've got 2 more days with them. The beds were flushed down the toilet. Is this a sign of what's to come? Is this really over? I'm like, Lord, you've got to work powerfully here because I'm responsible for them, and there's 2 more days. How's this going to play out? Is this just a sign of what's to come? And so I was like, Lord, what should I do? How can I lead? How can I show these young men how to overcome their sinful nature and how to be strong when Satan comes attacking them with these angry feelings and stuff? And the Lord told me, fast. Start fasting and praying. And in fasting, you can show by example to deny yourself, because this all came from his desire for food making him angry. So tell them you're not going to eat. And so that's what I did. And Terrence was like, man, this isn't fair. You can't fast just because we complain. That's not fair. You're starving now because we're complaining. And I was like, the Lord told me to do this. And I'm teaching by this. I'm trying to show you guys that we do not live on bread alone. We live on every word that comes out of God's mouth. And you don't need to eat every 2 or 3 hours every day. You can go days without food. Just give it to the Lord. And also by denying your flesh, you're learning self-control. And so I'm not going to eat to teach you guys it's not all about food. I want you guys to learn and enjoy this trip more than I want food. So I'm going to give up food for you guys to show how much I love you and how much I want to be a leader for you. And it really had a big impact on them. They stopped complaining the rest of the trip, and they started behaving so good. And they just, it really sobered their minds about the petty complaining and bathroom break complaints and all these things. They're just like, we're complaining about this, but he's now starving for days. So it put their complaints in perspective. Now I was suffering more than they were. And so if I wasn't going to complain, then they wouldn't complain. And so that was a great teaching moment. And the Lord revealed that. It wasn't even my idea. He was like, just fast, and this is how you're going to teach them. He gave me the words to explain it to them, and they understood. So it was really powerful, and it was such an awesome learning. So the Lord gave us all such amazing spiritual lessons throughout the whole trip. So it was really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting as you're sharing this experience, that as the Lord, begins to call us out, we're just imperfect people. We're imperfect, and God calls imperfect people to care for even more imperfect people. So
Yeah.
it's just a funny, it's just let's say an interesting kind of situation the Lord is putting us in, because you're caring for these ones the best you knew how. From going to caring for nobody to now trying to care for people who extra special needy people. and
Yeah.
you're doing the best you can in trying to figure out how to care for these people and serve them, and learning a whole bunch of different things in the process. It looks like God's teaching you, which to me, when you told me these stories, I thought it was very interesting because, like I said, knowing you, in the past, it was like you said, it's hard for you to go out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
because like you said, you have goals you want to accomplish, you have things you want to do, and anything outside of that is a challenge to you to let that interfere in what's going on in your life. So for God to bring you into taking these two guys, I knew that was going to be an experience for you when you told me. And then when you came back and you told me the whole story, I thought that was interesting. But I'm very happy to hear that you saw God in the whole thing.
Yes.
You didn't think it was a disaster, and that just because you didn't get to the conference, you didn't let expectations ruin the thing God was trying to show you. And many times Christians, I think that's our problem, is we have expectations from God, and He's trying to show us one thing, and we're expecting another, and He's trying to teach us about who we are and how we care for people, and what we're expecting in life is not, that doesn't match up all the time. But if we're humble and we just look for Him in the situation, He'll teach us many things like He did you. He'll broaden us. He's going to show
Yeah.
you more how to care for people, especially people that you didn't realize, wow, when this happens, these things happen. We don't understand. We're not used to caring for certain kind of people. We don't understand all that comes with it.
Yeah.
When we say we're all in for God, when we tell people we're going to follow you, God, we don't know really what that actually means when it actually comes to dealing with humanity.
Yeah.
So God showed you that right off the bat. He hit you smack right in the face with it. And I appreciate all the lessons you learned, and some people might think some of the things you said are a little interesting, but in the end, I mean, we can't judge. You're the one that went with them. You're the one that took care of them. We didn't. So in that sense, would we be willing to do the same thing, and would we experience God in the same way you did if we handled things differently? So that's something that I think that we have to consider in this whole situation. So thank God He covered everything, took care of everything, and you came back. I could say a little knowing God a little more, and like you said, these guys also experienced probably something they maybe never would have if they wouldn't have went with you on this trip in a way that potentially could
Yeah.
have helped them mature a little more. If their whole life people are just used to, like, oh, that's just who they are. This is how it's always going to be, never pushing them, even to the point where, like you said, in the danger zone a little bit, would they ever have had that opportunity to just have a little extra growth? So that being said, yeah, that is a one-time experience that God let you do. Now we could try.
Wait, there's something else that happened
Go
too.
ahead. Go
So
ahead.
the extra ticket that we bought
Oh
for the
yeah,
didn't
because the girl
come.
didn't come, right?
First day of the conference, when we went in line, we were running late. We went in line, and this girl was like passionately discussing with the staff working security how like someone bought her ticket and they were saying it's not valid. They canceled their credit card and the payment never went through. And she was like, "Well, I traveled all this way to this conference from out of state or whatever, and I never expected him to cancel it, and I have the ticket, and I don't know what to do." And they're like, "Well, we can't help you." And then I'm like, "I have a ticket, which is for a girl about the same age, even looks the same." And I'm like, "Here you go." And I told her that this was from a girl that was supposed to come, and she canceled, and she even reminds me of you. And she was like, "Thank you so much." And so she was so happy. And so the Lord even worked that out because that helped somebody that was in need.
So
And
he knew she wasn't gonna. I mean, the Lord knows ahead of time.
yeah,
I mean,
so
she could have.
perfect.
That's the thing, is it's not that she didn't actually have the opportunity to go. She could have went. The Lord is we have free choice, but on the other hand, He knows what we're going to choose too. It's very predestination or our free will. That's something in the Bible that's very interesting how God works out. But He knew she wasn't going to come, so He prepared that ticket for that girl to give you that experience also, which is kind of cool, So
Plus, we were supposed to camp, and we were going to have a girls' area and a girls' tent, and a guys' area and a guys' tent. And that all got canceled because it was like raining the whole time. And then my wife's brothers ended up coming. Last minute, they decided to come, and they rented out. They were stuck in traffic at the hotel they were going to go to. So they had to go to a different hotel. And since every hotel in the whole region was booked for this conference, they ended up booking a huge suite, which the Lord orchestrated all of that. So then we had room to have all of us come at their suite. It was a 2-bedroom, huge living room suite. So then my wife and I slept in the living room on the couch, and we built beds out of chairs we scooted together. We built a bed out of it, and then we let the boys have one of the nice beds with their own bedroom, and then we had her brothers share a room as well. And it all worked out to where we had free lodging, even though we paid for the campsite, but we never went there. So that all worked out, but we couldn't have done that. We would have had to sleep with a rainy campground freezing had the girl come, because she couldn't stay at a hotel with all the guys in it. We would have had to get a separate hotel. So it worked out to save like a lot of even more hardship. But the Lord even had something else crazy happen, which was when we first got there and arrived after the conference, it was New Year's Eve night. We were all starving, and we got to the hotel and we brought in a bunch of food that was frozen in the cooler from the car to cook in the kitchen at the hotel. And that was another nice thing. The suite had a kitchen. So we put all the stuff in the oven, we turned it on, and we waited for like an hour, and we were just talking, open up about our lives. It was really powerful fellowship. The Spirit was there. And when I went to check on the food an hour later, maybe an hour and a half later, I saw it was all frozen still.
Oh,
The
wow.
oven was broken. So I had to,
Oh.
and it was all the food is wrapped in aluminum. So I was like, how do I even cook this then? So I had to put it over the stovetop, thaw it slowly enough to open the aluminum so that I could transfer it to a plastic container so that I could microwave it. So there's this whole process, package by package, because we had all these little packages of single serving food. So I had to thaw each one. There's only 4 burners on the oven, and everybody was starving. 4 people had to eat. They needed like 4 packages each. So that's 16 packages, only 4 burners. So this was a huge process to cook all that frozen food without an oven. So we were up another like 4 hours cooking food and delivering it as it was getting done. So it took 5 hours for us to all to eat till we're full. 5 hours. So that meant 5 hours of fellowship. So we were opening up about our lives, and they were sharing things they never told anyone before about traumatic things that happened in their childhood and all this stuff. It was super powerful. That would have never happened if we all just ate quick and then went to sleep. So the Lord planned all of that, even I believe having that oven not work.
Yeah, it's
So he was just moving in every little detail.
so that's to me that's life. The Lord calls us. We think that we're such good servants, but when you actually really get into the thick of serving and caring, shepherding the sheep, there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of things happen, even in family, caring for our spouses, our kids, the brothers and sisters in the church. When we begin to really go out of our comfort zone to start to care for people, we find out there's so many issues. This is an extreme case. But that being said, all the cases of we're imperfect people caring for imperfect people. So it just a lot. And then you have the devil there at the same time trying to cause even more, make it even harder for us. But
Yeah.
it's so good to hear your testimony, to see that God is still above all that. He's above
Yeah.
our weakness. He's above our ignorance of not knowing how to care for people. He's above our pride. He's above our shortnesses, above all the shortnesses that the lack in finances or in the different facilities that are needed. He's above all that. So it wasn't even about you going to passion. That was the Lord used that. It was about
Yeah.
learning how to just be with these people and care for, and really, like you said, being a leader, being someone who is caring for people and all that comes with it. It's not that attractive sometimes. I'm sure the Lord felt the same way with us, with man.
Yeah.
It came down. We were all just, handicapped in his eye. Looking at him, he's God of the universe. So we must all be like looking at him like that, like how messed up we must seem to him, and just so immature and so just, all the issues, like you said, like we're all off our meds in a way. But
Yeah.
Jesus was right there. He's right there. God's right there in the thick of it, caring for everybody, and then commissioning us to do the same thing. So that's sweet. That I think that, like I said, you can read into your story and judge your story, but on the other side, some people could. But on the other hand, it's like, to me, that you're able to see God and have that experience, and that you went out of your way to care for people, and just people. We have to understand that all that will come with it. That's just part of the journey, and that's why the Lord said, pick up your cross and follow me. That's what he said, because when we care for people, when we really start to follow, there will be a cross. But he said, if you deny your soul life and follow me, then you'll gain it. But if you gain it, if we're just ones that always care about ourselves and don't let the Lord, take our cross and help people, because we will be suffering, then we will lose it. We'll lose it in the long run. So it's not worth it. So So that's great. So I'm gonna stop this video here, but then I'm gonna pick it right back up. That way I'll have part 1 and part 2 maybe, because it's
Okay, yeah.
gonna be a little too long. So let me just stop here. Thanks for tuning in, Ben Sam Like TV. We're gonna have a part 2 here in a minute. So tune back in, and we'll have both parts up maybe at the same on the channel. But I'm gonna end this here. Okay. So give me a minute, Gary. Be right back.